We spoke about Bros, terrible movie. From one terrible movie on to another terrible movie. Let's talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, because on the Critical Drinkers podcast, Chris Gore was there and he confirmed the leaks over on Reddit that the ending is the ending. So, does anyone know the ending semi enough that they can sort of rattle it off and then we can discuss and talk about it?
Yeah, we had Chris Gore on with Monday to break it down at an Arrow channel as well. And I haven't had the time to clip it yet, because clipping, that's another full-time job in addition to all the others. So that is coming. But yeah, who wants to go through the ending?
Well, I guess I'll jump in here.
No volunteers, then I'll do it. Or you do it. Culture, perfect.
I'll knock it out. I wasn't gonna, but I'll do it real quickly. So we're coming to the end of the film. Indy's terribly wounded. He's been shot in the chest, gut, whatever. He's been kind of making his way through this. He's really not inspired to return to his own time, because yes, the time travel thing was real. And yes, it's everything that you would expect it to be, just absolutely terrible. But anyway, so he argues with Helena, the goddaughter, niece, whatever you want to call her, the future Indiana Frost in Black, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, and so they argue, and in the end, she ends up knocking him unconscious. She punches him out so that she can return him to his proper time. Which is done not in a way that you get to see. And they return to their proper time. He awakens in bed, wounded, but Marion has returned into his life magically for somehow, because plot. His hat is setting outside, and
like a washing line or something, isn't it?
Say again.
It's on like a washing line or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Basically, the Back to the Future ending is what I'd heard it referred to as.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's break it down a little bit differently. Yeah. So basically, the start of the film, we're introduced to the present day in the film. We're introduced to a sad, tired, old, aching Indiana Jones. He's not happy. He's living out his days as a professor. His son is dead, died in Vietnam. Marion is getting a divorce with him, or has divorced him. So
basically, the happy ending from the previous movie is taken away from him. Let's just emphasize that.
That's
taken away.
Exactly what I was about to say. So what they do is they undo everything that the previous movie had ended on, which is key, because it really does display just how piss poor the writer of this film is. So they undo everything from the previous film. Marion divorced, Vietnam son's dead. He's just a shitty old professor now. He's not happy. He goes to his class, and who's there at the back of the class, being witty, knowing all the answers? It's Helena. She's incredibly unlikable. She sleeps around to get what she wants. She's just a bit of a bitch, basically. She is said to be one of the most unlikable, just an incredibly unlikable person. And they spend overlong establishing her as a character and setting her up, and it's too long. Anyway, they go on a mission for the Dial of Decrepity, Destiny. It's a time travel device. They go back in time on a time travel spree. And so what happens is, towards the end of the film, they're back in time, and Indiana Jones does not want to go home. He wants to live out his days in the past. He's done. This is where he wants to be. He wants to stay there. And basically, Helena is the hero. Helena goes, "No, you can't. You can't do this. You'll change stuff. You'll change time. Blah 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 blah." She becomes the hero. She knocks him out. How many punches comedically did Indiana Jones take in all the other movies? Quite a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Massive people.
Anyway, but none of them were from a woman armed with girl power.
Yeah, she manages to knock him out, and then he wakes up, and huzzah, Marion's there. So again, they undo everything from the previous movie, only to end in the exact same way that the previous movie ended. It's lazy writing. It's very piss poor. It's terrible. And then a hand reaches out. Oh, whose is it? And then fade to black or whatever. So basically, it's all true. This sounds like absolute fucking wank. It did when these leaks came out, and now it's confirmed. Terrible writer, actually terrible writing, because you're not going anywhere. There's no character progression. You've not gone anywhere with the characters. You've just undone everything that the previous writers had done to end where the previous writers had ended. That's the sign of a terrible writer, is it not?
Yeah.
Andre, you'll chime in?
Absolutely. It is absolutely terrible. And this is kind of like the point that I was making as well, because James Mangold is actually a really, really solid filmmaker.
He's a very good
for
filmmaker.
The first time, he is not making a James Mangold movie. He is making a Kathleen Kennedy movie. And his job is basically to point the camera, shoot, and follow her detailed instructions. And I guess that he only accepted a gig because, I mean, she's one of the most important producers in Hollywood royalty, wants that relation, thinks it's going to be good for his career. To Indiana Jones, the previous movie wasn't so well received. If it does as good as that, it's a hit and everything. And then working for Kathleen Kennedy, he's been working on this thing that he knows is a disaster. That's why he's been freaking out in social media and everything. Because all of the true architect of this movie is Kathleen Kennedy. And you can tell that from the casting of Phoebe Waller-Bridge as the Kathleen Kennedy self-insert, to the whole story being about how innately superior she is on account of being a girl boss. And you kind of see where the reshoot ending was going, that she absolutely was going to become the new de facto Indiana Jones.
Oh, and Kathy said she still could, even though that show's been canceled. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead here.
Yeah. I mean, this it's bad.
She reminds me of a Taika Waititi, right? Why exactly are they this popular? Or a Seth Rogen is probably a better example.
Seth Rogen is the best example.
Why? They have had nothing of real success to really, they had one thing maybe in their past that was successful, and they're riding off of that still. I mean, things like Santa Inc. should have destroyed his career, but no, here we still are.
She piggybacked off of other people, so she was a named producer on all the other projects that were Indiana Jones. That's why. So she's just piggybacking off of other people's success. But when it comes down to her actually being the architect of it all, there's no creative talent there. There's no good guidance from her. She's fucking woeful. Actually woeful. Embarrassingly so. So it just goes to show, doesn't it? But, when those other things that she's a named producer on were being made, she had no involvement, or she was vetoed out. And this is her now getting her power trip and going, ha ha ha, you can't veto me now. And there you go. Box office shows that, you probably should have been.
Of course, she's going to argue when the movie fails that it wouldn't have done so badly if we had done what I wanted and made her take over. Everyone would have wanted that. See, now she's no longer so powerful, and the audience rejected it. That's the excuse of these people.
Could you imagine? Well, yes, as you've alluded to there, she has come out and said, she's come out and said a very political statement, basically, by saying, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy says, it's entirely possible for Phoebe Waller-Bridge to take over the Indiana Jones franchise, but they're not focused on that right now. So it says, we're not having any of those conversations right now. We just focus on finishing this with Harrison. But you know what? They have had conversations, haven't they? You have had conversations. And what you're doing is laying the framework for the potential. Because if this does well, you're going to go, there you go. She'll take over now. That's what you're doing. Phoebe Waller-Bridge will be signed on to a multi-year contract, for sure. She'll have a multi-picture deal. Absolutely she will be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, outrageous. Who? Why? Why is she not fired yet? This is what is so
because she's
bad.
Kathleen Kennedy. I mean,
it's
I mean, you're right. Like if it was any other time in the history of the world, she would have a lot less ground to stand on, right? I mean, anybody else who possibly would have done this many things wrong in a row. But again, that goes right back to what I was saying about people like Seth Rogen, because these people are all in the same mind think, and the same thing can be said for what, you know, and hopefully I'm not stepping on a upcoming story, but like, you know, with Samuel L. Jackson, what he said yesterday or the day before, whenever he said it, but it caught fire yesterday. I mean, it's like these idiots really do think that everybody in the rest of the world thinks the way they do, because they just cannot fathom somebody who doesn't think the way they do. And if you don't, then you're all the isms and the igots and the whatevers you want to put at the end there. You're all these things because they just can't understand how somebody could not feel the same way as them. It's like not everybody lives in a palatial mansion or has, you know, handlers and hairstylists and everything else doing shit for you, assistants and secretaries. Not everybody lives a lifestyle like you do in the bubble that you do. And that just blows their little minds.
Oh, it's so bad. Can you imagine the response? Right. Let's go about this two different ways. The response to this film is going to be atrocious. This film will lose hundreds of millions of dollars. Absolutely, it will. Guaranteed. So. And deservedly so. But can you imagine the response if they then came out with like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Indiana Jones? Like, for God's sake. And she's like named writer on it because she gets producer credits on most stuff she works on. Can you imagine that she becomes a producer of her own Indiana Jones, like, bloody spin-off show? Some feminist drivel, because that's what it'll be, because that's what she's all about.
But I have no, I don't think that it's possible. First of all, the film is going to flop spectacularly, clearly.
But what?
But she has killed everything she's ever touched, with the exception of the one television product that she put out there in the world, Fleabag, which is the only thing anybody can remember her from. Yeah. Because, you know, if you ask who played the robot in the terrible Star Wars movie, they're not going to remember it was her, right? So I would argue that, yes, you know, she could be named a producer. I mean, she clearly, according to Spielberg, had influence in this particular film, which is probably one of the reasons why it sucks. Yes. But she literally killed global interest in James Bond, the greatest espionage film franchise ever made. Single-handedly destroyed that film. And I mean, going forward, you can't even get Wilson and Broccoli to figure out what they're going to do with James Bond. So they're lost, and it's because they allowed themselves to be seduced by the money into, for financing things in the future through this ESG manipulation, which we talk about all the time. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's like I said, I have no fear. I'm not going to suffer in fear of her ending up, destroying anything else after Indiana Jones. At least not continuing it further, I should say.
Do you know what she's next attached to?
Tomb Raider.
Yes, I believe so. No, sorry, you already got the culture.
Tomb Raider.
Carry on.
Fucking Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Fucking Tomb Raider.
Yeah. By the way, she's not equipped to fill out the Tomb Raider costume. Just gonna say.
No. She's writing it and producing.
Oh, you don't think she's going to be in it?
I can't imagine she'd do Lara Croft.
I'd be shocked if she didn't.
Oh, you really think? God.
Yeah.
Ah. Anyway.
I really think.
Anyway.